All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Melissa. I'm joined by Shelly Aldridge and Elizabeth Lake from Elizabeth Lake Interiors in Sacramento. So hi, ladies.
Hi.
So my burning question, our burning question, Elizabeth, is 2,700 or 3,000 Kelvin?
So there is not a clear answer there. I use both, and it really depends on the house. Most of the time, the age of the house, because in my business, I work in so many old homes. Like 95% of my business are homes that are between 80 and 100 years old. So I'm dealing with lower ceilings. I'm dealing with a lot of times warmer architectural elements that are, they kind of require me to use more of a 2700K. If I'm doing a newer, more modern house or a house that we've just, they have gone wildly modern in, I will use 3,000. I prefer it on art, but sometimes it just doesn't work in these older homes. So if I had my druthers, 3,000. But most of the time there isn't a hard and fast rule on that. So I'm sure that's not the answer you were looking for probably, but it also depends on the brand. Like there are brands out there that I think their 2,700 is way too orange. So, and I don't know, do people want that specificness of it? Because there's one brand I won't use their 2,700.
I gotcha. All right. Well, we won't ask you about that brand this episode. We'll probably have you back, and when we talk brands, when we get a little more down and dirty with the brands.
Okay.
So that brings me to our second question. So where are you located that you have all these old homes, and can you tell us how you got into interior design? How did you become an interior designer, and what is your background?
Okay. I live in Sacramento, California, and I live in a neighborhood called East Sacramento. And it is just east of like the downtown midtown core. It's a neighborhood where they started building homes in the late teens, early 20s, and they kind of started moving east, and they finished in the early 1950s at the furthest east end. So it's a neighborhood that's very like the houses are very different from each other. You go down the street, it's very it's like going back in time. The trees canopy over the streets. There's no consistency in architecture. Every house is different, and they vary in size from like I live in a 996 square foot house, and they range up to maybe there's a few that are about 4,000. But most are in the 2,500 range and we're fairly tightly packed. Like the lots are not tiny, but they're not huge. Right. So that's that's the description of the neighborhood. If you saw Lady Bird, the movie Lady Bird, it took place in this neighborhood.
Nice.
Cool. And is that where you went to school? Is that where you went to design to get your degree?
So my degree is in interior architecture. And I did go to Sac State. I had moved away and actually commuted here because it was the only program that had a double accreditation, and I really wanted to learn. So I commuted for a lot of years because it's a 5-year degree. So it was a long road.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But once I made the decision that was what I wanted to do with my life, like it's what needed to be done. So I did it. How I knew I wanted to be a designer. When I was a kid, my parents took me to Hearst Castle, and I fell in love with it. And the fact that the architect was a female just like interested me even more. And I was already interested in houses. Like my mom says that, other kids had coloring books, and I had like drafting books, and I would design houses. I would draw floor plans.
Oh, wow.
So she has all of these old, like spiral bound, drafting books where I've and I would overlay like the floors on top of each other. Oh God. Yeah. And then I would build them out of Legos.
Oh, wow.
Wow. You're hardcore. That's amazing.
But even
Okay.
with all of
So,
that, I never thought I'd do it for a living. Isn't that, I know it's weird. It never seemed like something you could make money doing in my mind. You know, I was supposed to be
right.
like a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
the
Right. I
Early on.
know. I
socially
know.
acceptable professions, right?
Right.
Um,
But interior design actually really is. And I know, full disclosure, I know Elizabeth. I've known her for many years. And so she has a unique um, background in that I know you because you've been in lighting in the
Mhm.
past.
Yep.
So
Yes.
how does the lighting part, how does that affect everything
Oh
for
my
you,
God.
your
The
designs?
lighting thing is everything. So I went into lighting because I was really feeling like in my designs that I didn't know what I was doing from a lighting standpoint. I didn't think my classes were that good. They were really quite lacking, actually, truthfully.
Interesting.
So I thought, you know, I'm going to get a job with a lighting company and learn it a year, maybe two, and then I've got that in my toolbox. And so I started with Lumens when they were still a startup. I mean, they were just a baby company. Like they had a handful of items online and a showroom. And
Hmm.
so I ran the retail side of their business for a very long time. I ended up staying far longer. I stayed 10 years. The first 4, I was just managing the showroom. And then after that, I was doing lighting design because by then I'd learned it. And so I did residential mostly and some restaurants back then.
Hmm.
Um, and so I stay, you know, in the end, I stayed because I had stock and I wanted my money.
Right, right.
Very
The
bad. You might
money,
want to cut
right?
that out. Um,
No, no, we're gonna keep it all. It's all fodder for the tell-all look. Yeah, so you definitely have a strong, you're different from a lot of interior designers that probably Shelley and I work with because of that lighting background.
yeah.
And so it probably, so is lighting, um does so Shelley, maybe you want to ask the question the way you want to ask it. I don't want to put words in your mouth about lighting and design and where it comes in.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I've sometimes seems like that maybe it's a last afterthought. This is everything from residential up, you know. So I was wondering if you take it through from the beginning process up, not just on the decorative, but the recessed and accenting. And sometimes I see there's a lot of decorative used, but not enough architectural used. If you just kind of look through all of that, you take it from the beginning process, and then also if your client is understanding of how the lighting works or if they're even interested.
So I think sadly, too often it's an afterthought. And if I'm brought into a project later, it is, and I'm fighting to change things that had already been put into motion. Um, if I'm brought in from the beginning, it's one of the it's probably, aside from, you know, just if we're moving walls, if we're adding on, once we figure that out, it's the very first thing I do. Absolutely. Because I want to control what kind of lighting goes in there, where it goes, and get everybody on board early, because contractors tend to use what they know, which is crap from Home Depot. And I just,
Right.
I
That
won't,
was yeah.
I don't allow it.
Well, I mean, I find sometimes a lot of times the designers do just let the electrician
I
specify
know.
what they want to
Uh-uh.
use, where I'm finding a trend starting with their education, and the more they're educating, that it's nice when you hold your specification, you say, this is why I want you to use it. So that's why I was curious.
Yes, and people kind of know, my business is 100% referral. So they've seen my work, and it's a discussion we have on day one, literally on day one,
Right.
about the importance of it. And, you know, if you're going to spend the money, and a lot of the remodels I'm doing are million plus, and if, you know, you're going to have a multi-million-dollar house, you can't put $50 cans in there. No.
Right, right. No, it's not a good, it actually makes it look like there's something wrong with it. Sometimes maybe you've even
It
gone
really
into a
does.
place where it's like there's something is wrong with my house, and
And I
it's
don't know what
the
it is.
lighting.
Yeah, because it
Right.
looks like a 7-Eleven.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. So what I want to talk about trends a little bit, and we're kind of entering into a period. Well, we've been in a period, with COVID, where people have been spending a lot of time and money on their houses. Now we're entering into a period of kind of unknown economics, and I think everybody's kind of a little bit more conservative in what they're doing with their homes. Do you see the design trend shifting from what was going on during COVID to what's starting to happen now, or is it the same? Do you see anything changing because of the changing situation?
Right. So I'm hearing of things, I'm hearing talk in reading articles and things like that, that things are changing. People are paring down, people are scaling back. My business is a little bit different in that the people that I'm working with are more established financially. And so no, I'm not seeing any paring back, no slowing down. Like I'm juggling, as you know, Melissa, way too many projects. Like and it's
Right.
not, I'm just not seeing it at all.
Mm-hmm. That
So,
is good
but it
news.
doesn't mean it's not happening elsewhere. And it doesn't mean I'm not terrified it's going to happen here too.
We're not seeing it in the Carolinas yet either, but we do have a lot of people moving here, and we've actually seen the growth of better architectural lighting coming more and more into play. So I wonder if it's just through education that designers are realizing that they want to take that over instead of and making it important.
I hope so, because it is so important. I mean, you spend all this money doing these beautiful things and then you can't see them.
Absolutely. That's my
Right.
thing. You spend all the
Right.
money, a lot of money on kitchens where the cabinets are never lit. I was always taught, don't look at the floor. You're not lighting the floor. So let's light things first.
Yep. It's absolutely true.
Good, good.
That is true. So, what kinds of design trends are you seeing then with your people? What's coming up? What is going out of style, if anything?
So
Are
I
you
think
seeing it?
the gray walls are leaving the building. I think we're all, if I have to do another kitchen with gray walls and white shaker cabinets, I'm going to scream. I would say I'm seeing a lot more whites and neutral tones on the walls, variations on white, moving. If it's a gray, it's a much warmer gray, almost leaning to like a grayish-ish. Cabinetry, we do a lot of white here just because it's classic, but I'm trying to steer away from the shaker. At least to me, they're a nightmare to clean. So at the very lowest level of that, like I at least add a bevel in there, or I like to play with cabinet face styles a little bit more now. And so I'm kind of able to talk people into at least considering something else now. I think people are sick of looking at it. And so that's changing a little bit. Wood tones, I'm doing a little bit more of those. A lot of white oak at the moment, at least here. And I don't know what's happening elsewhere. Both in kind of like a very light, not adding too much stain to really making them super dark. But not a lot in between, if that makes sense. So they're either really light or they're really dark, and not too much in the middle.
Interesting.
A lot more it's very textural. Clay, a lot of pottery and clay and kind of organic shapes, and it's all textural.
Which makes the lighting even more important.
Exactly. It absolutely does. And
Yeah, if you're
I
not
can
using color.
people into doing, sculptural things on the wall that then I can,
Mhm.
I can graze it and it looks really cool.
Right. You
Right.
start to see the dimensions because things are shadowing and
Exactly.
such a dramatic, it's so dramatic. I love it when that's done right.
Yes.
But it
Right,
often gets
right.
overlooked. Often gets
Yeah.
overlooked.
It too often. Yeah.
Interesting. And do you subscribe to the theory? This is an art historical perspective, but it's maybe carries into design and maybe not. Maybe I'm totally wrong. When people get sort of nervous about the state of the world, at whatever level, do you see default back to more classic rather than experimenting with a little bit more wild? Do you have to coax people into something a little bit outside of the boundaries? Do people sort of at whatever spending level they have, even at the level that you're working with these larger remodels, are they moving back towards classic shapes, or are they still happy to experiment?
I would say I'm seeing a little bit of movement towards classic shapes, but not a ton. I think that I maybe a little bit, but not a ton. I think people are
Okay.
still
Okay.
willing to experiment a little bit, or at least I push them
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
get out.
Interesting.
Decorative
Okay.
fixture. Well, decorative fixture, I've always had the motto that you can change that up easier.
And I tell them that, like, I've always used the decorative lighting pieces as like the finishing, like it's the necklace, it's the jewelry.
Right.
And you can
Mhm.
keep everything else super simple and timeless, and let's have fun. Let's have fun with that dining room fixture. Let's have fun with a fixture over your island, over your tub,
Right.
that kind of a thing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And this might be something, I don't know if you're actually able to answer this or not, because maybe all your projects are based on the West Coast, but do you think there's a big difference between, it used to be like West Coast was way ahead and like 10 years ahead of the East Coast, with exception of New York, but the rest of the country. Do you think that still holds true, or do you
I think
think
it's less
there's
true.
less of it?
I think it's less true. I think the East Coast is catching up for sure. I don't think that there's that lag anymore as much. Maybe a little bit, but not from what I'm seeing. And I subscribe to, like, I get Southern Living just so I can see
Oh,
what,
yeah.
what's going on in the South, or, in the Eastern South. And I'm seeing things that I'm seeing here. So it's,
Okay.
I don't think that lag is, and I'm not speaking from things I've seen in person because I haven't traveled that direction since pre-COVID, but from a shelter magazine standpoint, not
Yes.
so much.
Do you see
Right.
more and more people integrating systems, like where it's taking over the house and making it a smart system, or do you still see people just a wall unit is good, they can control it from there?
More systems for sure. And part of that's that I push it
Okay.
because it makes it easier for them if it's set up properly in the long run. And usually I can sell them on the security aspect of it, because most of the systems have like an away, like if you're on vacation, it will
Right.
put lights on and off randomly and make it look more like your home. People like that. So I'll start like with that. And then the other subsequent pluses of it, they enjoy them.
That's great. That's
Right.
great.
Right. That's good. It seems like the technology's better to integrate different things too now, where before they were super fussy with each other. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that it's getting better. Yeah.
Things are still fussy, but most of it's over, you can overcome it.
Right. Right. And then I just want to ask about California, because we're special, as you know, in California.
Very.
And how does all the code, like the type, we have a code which we will talk about called Title 24, which is a requirement for lighting, and energy efficient lighting, which is why we often use we are often, even if we did not want to, we use a lot of recess, but for ways of lighting the home and keeping with the energy efficacy codes.
Yeah.
Is that difficult? Are you finding any issue with that? Is everyone pretty much on board? Can you find all the products you want, at least in lighting, that are Title 20, that are code compliant?
Oh yeah. Like it's night and day from what it was even 5 years ago. Like I have no problem. People are on board with LEDs now because they mimic an incandescent really well.
Mm-hmm.
And our codes have changed here to the point where, there was a point where I would have to I would stick lighting in every nook and cranny I could that was energy efficient in order to be able to use that one or two decorative fixtures that I didn't want LED because they were going to be the pretties, and the LEDs weren't pretty back then. So but now they've changed it. They had a bunch of base, lamping base requirements and things, and it's no longer like that. So I can really do what I want now and can find fixtures that work.
That's a relief. Yeah. After many years of kind of struggle. Of ugliness.
I'd have to go backwards. Like, okay, so if I want this chandelier and it's this many watts, then I have to double that. And I mean, I was sticking lighting everywhere and it was using more energy. Like it was having the opposite effect that it was supposed to.
Exactly. Like our whole thing here is energy efficacy. Yeah. And you're like loading the place up with light fixtures to get the light fixtures that you want. Yeah. It's kind of
it was
counterproductive.
Totally counterproductive, but I think they finally figured it out.
I think so too. We're going to do a whole at least one module on codes, because I keep telling Shelly it's coming to a theater near you. I mean, our codes are traveling. They're on the move.
Has it not arrived on the East Coast yet? I'm totally unaware of what's going on in other states. So
right, it depends on the application. It depends on if it's commercial, if it's residential. Our residentials don't tend to be as strict on that. Commercial, light commercial, that's definitely a whole different beast as far as our watts per square foot and so it just depends on the application there, but we're not quite there. I mean, I would say that most of our homes are using integrated LED recess, but then again, I say that there are still some that just screw that light bulb in. So it could be an LED light bulb, but they're still using a recessed can and screwing the light bulb in.
Yeah.
So they're looking at a cost efficiency there, but not realizing that the lamp is not going to last as long. But
yeah, not even close. And you have to use, like, I am not a fan of large cans. And so the LED has allowed, I don't use anything that's more than 2 inch. So
well, we do still have quite a few that will specify on the residential side the 6-inch can.
Oh my God.
I got a call last week as an architect, and I was like, you don't need 6-inch anymore. So we've gotten them to 4, and now it's like,
you're getting there.
And we get 2, but they just, they kind of crank out exactly what they've known. And so
it's it's all about what they know, and they don't, it's just an unawareness of, they're just not aware of what's out there, even what's available and what it can do. Yeah.
Right. And the recess is getting smaller and smaller. So 4 is the new 6, 2 is the new 4, it's getting better and better.
And now there's a 1 that's really good.
I know there's a 1. So, okay. So without naming names, the 1 inches are really, some of the 1 inches that are coming out are like super cool, and give a lot of light output.
It's amazing the light that's coming out of them.
Do you, I'm just curious from a design perspective, a 1-inch fixture on a really tall ceiling, do you feel that looks a little out of place, or do you think that, okay, it's good up there?
So a showroom here in Sacramento installed them on a fairly high ceiling, fairly high. And I don't think, it disappears so much.
Okay.
That it's almost like it's not there. if that makes
Okay.
sense. So it really
Mhm,
wasn't odd.
mhm.
I kind of wondered that. And it's rare I ever have a ceiling that's high enough, that's even
Right.
close to what they installed them at. But yeah, no, it was really okay.
Okay, good.
That's
Just curious
interesting.
about
That's really interesting. So, and Shelley and I have talked about this a little bit too. Are you seeing like we have so many options in recessed, and really people, this is sort of the layer one for them for their house. Sometimes it's the only layer in their house, but it's often like really meant to light pretty much everything in the house. Are you seeing a trend where they're using decorative, like in a hallway or something, instead of recess? Like they're sick of, they want to interrupt it with something like a cylinder or decorative something. Are you seeing that trend at all? Or
Yes.
are people wanting it
Well,
clean?
and I tend to do that. I like to just sort of sprinkle some decorative around the house. And often I'll do it in a hallway, but I always mix it. But I only I do adjustables in hallways only,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and aim it at the art. And then I'll usually add a semi-flush or a flush that's cool for, just a little more ambient light and just some interest.
Yes.
So it
I like
doesn't
Right.
feel like a runway.
it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The runway. Yeah. We have the runway inside and then the runway on the driveway too.
Oh
So
yeah.
some people are
Yeah.
into the not the aeronautical the theme, and they just keep doing that. So it's
Absolutely.
interesting. One client at a time, right?
You know what?
So yeah, and you're an amazing designer. I can speak. I've seen some of Elizabeth's work. I've seen her own home.
Thank you.
I've seen you redo homes. So to end this super fun conversation, do you want to give us some information about your company and how to get a hold of you, your website, all that fun stuff?
My great website that I have so much time to take photos for. Melissa
The
knows
portfolio girl.
yeah, she knows that the portfolio is not my superpower. The whole like getting, I finish it and then I'm on to the next, and I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I think I've given up on myself, and somebody else is going to be responsible for that. So I will give you my website information, but don't hold it against me.
Right.
So
No
my
problem.
website is my company name, which is elizabethlakeinteriors.com. And I am in Sacramento, California. And so you can email me from that. If you go to the site, there's a thing where you can click and contact me. My phone number's on there. You can always call. And
we're going to put a link in too in the bottom with your information too. Do you work outside of Sacramento, or do you pretty much stick to that area?
I will. Yeah. I'm doing some stuff in Tahoe now. I've done in Napa. I've got one in Lodi right now, which is super interesting, right? Who knew?
Oh wow, Lodi, the new wine capital of the world.
Right?
I like it.
Yes.
And I also I helped a client that I had done their house here. They bought a little house in Tuscany, Italy.
Oh wow.
And so I
Wow.
did it, but I did it totally remotely. I haven't even been there. I need to
Wow.
go.
Well, I think if you used any of my lighting, I think we need to do a field trip, right, to get some
I
photography.
think so, right? It feels like a
Don't you
write-off
think?
coming.
I think so. I think a write-off is in the future.
We should do it.
Anyway, we absolutely should. Shelley,
Yeah.
if you need a field trip to get
There we
some
go.
designs for your website, we can Italy, here we come. I
Here we
see it.
come.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we are out of time because everybody has to get to their next appointment. But Elizabeth, I want to thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to be our guest. And we are going to let you and everybody know when this episode will drop, and we'll link all the information in the bottom. Any final thoughts for anybody? Shelley, do you have any final questions? Are we good?
Thank you so much for being on. I just love hearing your design perspectives from the opposite coast, just to see where things line up. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
She has a great person to ask for all of these things, because she has it all, including lighting background. So that's really helpful for us to know what's going on. So thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
everybody. And everybody have a great rest of the day and weekend.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.